Imagine a room in a busy Hong Kong hotel. The air is heavy with the city's heat. But inside this room, there is a different kind of feeling. It is a feeling of electric excitement and great danger. A young American man, just 29 years old, sits in this room. He is about to pull a pin on a grenade that will change the world forever. His name is Edward Snowden. With him are a few carefully chosen journalists. He knows they are brave. He trusts them to tell his story. This meeting was not a quick decision. It was the result of months of secret, encrypted messages. Edward Snowden is ready to share a huge secret, and he knows there is no going back.
The man at the center of this storm was not a typical spy. Edward Snowden was a quiet, intelligent man who worked with computers. He was a true computer wizard. He knew he was risking absolutely everything. He risked his job, his freedom, and the life he shared with his girlfriend, Lindsay Mills. He was even risking his life. Before he left his home in Hawaii, he did what a person does when they can never go back. He took all his money out of the bank. He packed a box with cash for his girlfriend. He also erased the information on his old computers. So, this leads to the big question: who is Edward Snowden? Why did a young man who seemed to love his country decide to share its biggest secrets? This is his story, and it is the story of the world we live in now.
To understand Edward Snowden, we must first look at his family. He was born in North Carolina, USA, on June 21, 1983. His family had a long history of working for the U.S. government. His father, Lonnie, was a warrant officer in the U.S. Coast Guard. His mother, Wendy, worked as a clerk in a federal court. Most importantly, his grandfather was a rear admiral who later worked for the FBI. His grandfather was at the Pentagon on September 11, 2001, when it was attacked. For young Edward, working for the government felt normal. It was the family business. He grew up believing that serving his country was the most honorable thing a person could do. Later, his family moved to Maryland, near the headquarters of the National Security Agency, the NSA. The world of spies and secrets was not strange or abstract to him. It was his neighborhood. It was a familiar landscape.
But another powerful influence was taking root in young Edward's life. His father gave him his first computer, a Commodore 64. This old computer started a fire in Edward's mind. He fell completely in love with technology. He was an incredibly curious child. He would take things apart, like his Nintendo game console, just to see how they worked inside. He had a deep need to understand everything. As a teenager, he became obsessed with the internet. He spent all his free time online, teaching himself how to write computer programs. He was becoming a self-taught expert.
A famous story from Snowden's teenage years shows the kind of person he was. He discovered a security problem on the website of the Los Alamos National Laboratory. This is not just any laboratory. It is one of America's most secret nuclear research centers. Snowden, a teenager in his bedroom, had found a digital key to a very secure place. What did he do next? He didn't cause any damage or steal anything. He picked up the telephone. He called the laboratory to inform them of their security weakness. He wanted to help them fix it. A few days later, a man from the lab called him back to thank him. The man was so impressed, he offered Snowden a job when he turned 18. This moment revealed the two sides of Snowden. He had the technical skill of a hacker and the sense of responsibility of a patriot.
Edward Snowden's formal education was not a straight line. In high school, he became very sick with infectious mononucleosis. He missed almost 9 months of classes. Instead of repeating the year, he chose to leave school. He later studied for and passed a test to get his high school diploma. He took some classes at a community college, but he never earned a traditional university degree. His real education happened online, on his own time. He was always learning about the newest technology and computer security. This shows that in his field, practical skills were more important than a formal degree. He was also interested in many other things, like Japanese culture and martial arts. He had a wide and curious mind, always seeking knowledge.
Then came the day that changed America and the world, September 11th, 2001. The terrorist attacks on New York and Washington, D.C. were a profound shock to Snowden. He felt a powerful, unquestioning need to serve his country. He believed it was his human duty to help free people from oppression. This intense patriotism pushed him to take direct action. In 2004, he enlisted in the U.S. Army. He chose a special program with the goal of joining the Special Forces, the Army's most elite soldiers. He wanted to be more than just a brain in a jar. He wanted to be on the front lines, a man of action, fighting for his beliefs.
Snowden's ambition to become a Special Forces soldier did not last long. During a difficult training exercise, he suffered a terrible accident. He broke both of his legs. The injuries were severe. Because of this, he received an administrative discharge from the Army. It was a huge personal disappointment. His life could have taken a completely different path. This physical setback, which seemed like terrible luck, was actually a pivotal moment. It redirected him away from being a soldier in the field. It sent him back towards his greatest strength, technology. His desire to serve was still strong. He just needed to find a new way to do it.
After the Army, Snowden developed a clear and strategic plan. He needed to combine his expert IT skills with a top-secret security clearance. A security clearance is official permission from the government to seize secret information. He knew this combination of skills and clearance was incredibly valuable. He figured that with both, he would get paid ridiculous amounts of money. And no one would care that he didn't have a college degree. He took a job as a security guard at a university research center sponsored by the NSA. It was the perfect way to get his foot in the door. At 22, after many background checks, he got his top-secret clearance. The door to America's most powerful intelligence agencies was now wide open. It was also during this time that he met Lindsay Mills, who would become his anchor in the storm to come.
With his new clearance, Snowden's career took off like a rocket. In 2006, he attended a job fair for intelligence agencies. He was immediately offered a position with the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. He was assigned to the Global Communications Division at CIA headquarters in Virginia. The agency recognized his incredible talent. They sent him to their secret school for technology specialists for 6 months of intensive training. He was learning how the world of espionage used technology. He was mastering the tools of a modern spy. He was finally on the inside of the powerful machine he had always wanted to serve.
In 2007, the CIA stationed Snowden in Geneva, Switzerland. He was given diplomatic cover. This meant he was officially a U.S. diplomat. His job was to maintain the security of the computer networks for American diplomats. He was given a diplomatic passport and a large apartment near beautiful Lake Geneva. To the world, he was just a tech support officer. In reality, he was a key technical expert for CIA operations in Europe. He assisted spies with their secret communications. He was trusted with critical tasks. But it was here, in this picture-perfect European city, that his idealism began to fade. He started to see things that made him deeply uncomfortable. The first small cracks in his patriotic faith started to appear.
One incident in Geneva had a profound impact on Snowden. He watched as CIA agents tried to recruit a private Swiss banker to be an informant. They wanted the banker to give them secret financial information. When being friendly didn't work, the agents used a cruel and cynical trick. One night, a case officer deliberately got the banker drunk. He then encouraged the banker to drive home, knowing what would happen next. The CIA had already tipped off the local police. The police arrested the banker for drunk driving. The banker was now vulnerable, facing charges and the loss of his job. The CIA officer then offered to help him out of his trouble, but only if he agreed to become a spy. The banker was disgusted by the blackmail and refused. His life was ruined for nothing. For Snowden, this was a moment of shocking clarity. This wasn't about protecting America. It was about the casual, unethical destruction of an innocent person's life.
The story of the banker wasn't the only thing that bothered Snowden. He was unsettled by the extravagant lifestyles of the super-rich in Geneva. It felt like a different reality, completely disconnected from the world he knew. At the same time, he was getting bad news from his friends back in the United States. The 2008 global recession was happening. Many of his friends were losing their homes. They were struggling while he was surrounded by immense wealth. It didn't feel right. His girlfriend, Lindsay, eventually joined him in Geneva. But before her arrival, he spent many lonely nights in his large, empty apartment. He read books and thought deeply about the morality of his work. His quiet doubts were growing into a loud, insistent voice in his head.
In February 2009, Snowden resigned from the CIA. He said he could no longer be part of an organization whose practices he saw as unethical. His journey inside the CIA was over, but his time in the world of intelligence was not. He transitioned into the world of private contracting. He began working for Dell, the technology giant, which held many government contracts. His first assignment was at a national security agency facility in Japan. He was moving from the CIA to the even more powerful and secretive NSA. He was going deeper into the shadows, not away from them. He was about to get a much closer look at the true scale of the surveillance state.
In Japan, the NSA gave Snowden a critical research project. He had to analyze the surveillance capabilities of the People's Republic of China. He dug deep into the data, using his expert skills. What he discovered left him stunned. The Chinese government was constantly collecting, storing, and analyzing the communications of its own billion-plus citizens. It was a true total surveillance state. But this discovery led him to a deeply disturbing question. How can the United States know so much about what China is doing, he wondered. The answer was a cold and logical conclusion. For the U.S. to have such detailed information, it must be using some of the very same methods itself. The capabilities of an adversary had cast a suspicious light on his own nation. The seed of a terrible suspicion had been planted.
In 2012, Snowden requested a transfer to a less stressful environment. He had started experiencing intense dizziness and his first epileptic seizures. Dell reassigned him to an NSA facility in Kunia, Hawaii. His new office was in the tunnel, an underground former aircraft plant. Here, he was the sole employee for the NSA's Office of Information Sharing. As a systems administrator, he had extraordinary access to the NSA's most sensitive networks. He had the keys to the kingdom. In the beautiful, relaxed setting of Hawaii, Snowden was about to uncover the U.S. government's darkest secrets. The peaceful paradise was the backdrop for a gathering storm.
To do his job more efficiently, Snowden built a program he called Heartbeat. The system was designed to create a personalized newsfeed of classified documents. It pulled reports from the secret networks of the NSA, CIA, and FBI. But Heartbeat did more than just display these documents. It also stored copies of them. This created a massive, searchable archive of secrets. He had, without intending to, built a powerful tool for discovery. It was his own private window into the complete activities of the intelligence community. He had no idea it would become the source for the biggest leak in history.
One day, one of Snowden's automated searches returned a hit for a program he'd never seen before. The program's name was Stellar Wind. He started digging into it, following the digital trail. He found evidence of a massive domestic spying program. It was tracking the mobile phone communications of millions of ordinary Americans. This was no longer a suspicion. This was proof. The U.S. government was secretly building a database of its own citizens' calls. As he read the reports, he felt a growing sense of horror. He said he felt cursed with the knowledge. He realized the government he worked for was watching everyone, all the time. He felt the very idea of privacy was being destroyed.
Snowden felt profoundly betrayed. He had joined these agencies to protect his country. Now he believed he was helping to build a system of oppression. He felt the intelligence community had hacked the Constitution. He believed they were putting everyone's liberty at risk. Snowden has stated that he tried to raise his concerns internally. He says he spoke to his supervisors and colleagues about his ethical worries. However, according to official reports, he never used formal whistleblower channels. This discrepancy is central to the debate about him. Was he a concerned employee who was ignored, or did he decide to leak without first trying to fix the system from within?
By early 2013, Snowden had made his decision. He had to act. He made one last, calculated career move. He left his job with Dell and joined Booz Allen Hamilton, another major NSA contractor. He accepted a lower salary to take this new job in Hawaii. He later stated he took this job for one specific purpose: to gather more evidence. He wanted to collect as many documents as he could to prove the full scope of the surveillance. He knew he couldn't just tell the world. He had to show the world. His job was no longer about service. It was about a mission. He had crossed a moral and ethical line. He was now actively collecting the secrets he was paid to protect.
A key trigger for Snowden happened in March 2013. He was watching James Clapper, the Director of National Intelligence, testify before the U.S. Congress. A senator asked Clapper a very direct question. Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans? James Clapper, under oath, looked at the senator and replied, "No, sir." He added, not wittingly. Snowden was watching this testimony. He knew it was a lie. He had seen the top-secret documents that proved it. To him, this was the head of U.S. intelligence lying directly to the public and to Congress. He said this moment solidified his resolve. There was no turning back.
Snowden now knew his old life was completely over. The moment he shared his secrets, he would become an enemy of the state. He began to prepare, as he later said, like a man about to die. He carefully copied the final documents onto tiny, concealable SD cards. To smuggle them out of the secure NSA facility, he used clever, low-tech tricks. He hid the tiny memory cards inside a Rubik's Cube puzzle. He also concealed them in his sock, his cheek, or his pocket. He used simple methods to defeat the world's most sophisticated high-tech security. At home, he emptied his bank accounts for his girlfriend, Lindsay. He meticulously erased his old computers, preparing to vanish.
On May 20th, 2013, Snowden told his bosses he needed to take emergency medical leave. It was a lie to buy him time. He went directly to the airport and bought a one-way ticket to Hong Kong. He chose Hong Kong for its reputation for free speech and its complex political situation. He hoped it would offer a temporary safe haven. He was traveling alone, knowing the world's most powerful government would soon be hunting for him. Before he left, he had been in secret, encrypted contact with journalists. He used code names like Citizen4. He told filmmaker Laura Poitras and journalist Glenn Greenwald that he had a story to share. He asked them to meet him in Hong Kong for the meeting that would change everything.
On June 2, 2013, the journalists arrived at the Mira Hotel in Hong Kong. They went to Snowden's room, and the filmmaker, Laura Poitras, began filming almost immediately. For the next 10 days, that hotel room became the center of the world's biggest secret. Snowden calmly and methodically explained the complex surveillance programs. He showed them the thousands of classified documents he had taken. The journalists listened, their faces a mixture of astonishment and deep concentration. They knew this was the story of a lifetime, but also an incredibly dangerous one. The film, Citizen4, captures the tension of these moments. In one memorable scene, Snowden drapes a red hood over his head and computer. It was a simple trick to prevent anyone from spying on him through his hotel window.
The story exploded into the public on June 5, 2013. The Guardian newspaper published the first article by Glenn Greenwald. It revealed a top-secret court order. This order forced the phone company Verizon to give the NSA the telephone metadata of millions of its customers. This was the first hard evidence of mass domestic surveillance. The very next day, a second bombshell dropped. This story revealed a program called PRISM. PRISM gave the NSA direct access to the servers of the world's largest internet companies. Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, they were all involved. The public's trust in the internet was about to be shattered.
For a few days, the source of these leaks remained anonymous. He was just a ghost, a source in the shadows. But Edward Snowden did not want to hide forever. On June 9th, at his own request, he stepped into the light. The Guardian released a 12-minute video interview. In the video, he looked calmly and directly into the camera. "My name is Ed Snowden," he said. "I'm 29 years old." He explained his motivations clearly. "I can't in good conscience allow the U.S. government to destroy privacy, internet freedom, and basic liberties," he said. With those words, his life as a private citizen was over. He was now the most famous and most wanted whistleblower on Earth.
Let's take a moment to understand some of these secret programs. PRISM was the NSA's front door to your digital life. The program allowed the NSA to obtain vast amounts of internet communications. They got this data directly from major U.S. technology companies. The list included Microsoft, Yahoo, Google, Facebook, and Apple. The data collected included emails, video chats, photos, stored files, and social networking details. The FBI would give a company a selector, like an email address. The company was then legally forced to turn over all communications from that selector. While the program was meant to target non-Americans, the data of many Americans was incidentally collected. This meant the content of your private online life could be read by the government.
If PRISM was the front door, XKeyscore was the master key to everything. Snowden described it as a kind of Google, but for private communications. XKeyscore allowed NSA analysts to search through enormous databases of internet data. They could search in real time, as the data was being collected across the globe. An analyst could read anyone's email if they had the address. They could watch all the internet traffic to and from any website. The searches could be very broad. For example, an analyst could search for all PGP encryption users in Iran. Or they could find a German speaker in Pakistan by analyzing the language of their chats. This powerful tool could be used to find targets whose names were not even known. It represented the potential for your everyday internet activity to be swept up and analyzed.
Snowden's leaks also exposed a massive domestic spying program. Under the Patriot Act, the NSA was secretly collecting phone call metadata. This affected virtually all Americans. Metadata is the information about your phone calls. It includes who called you, when you called, and for how long. Importantly, this program did not collect the content of the calls. But the NSA was still gathering the call records of nearly everyone from companies like Verizon and AT&T. They were building a giant database called MINWY. The idea was to map social connections to find potential terrorists. But it meant the government was storing a record of who every person in America talked to.
The surveillance was not just aimed at Americans. Snowden's documents proved the U.S. was spying on the entire globe. This included eavesdropping on the phone calls of allied world leaders. German Chancellor Angela Merkel was a prominent target. He also revealed programs run by the UK's spy agency, GCHQ. One program, codenamed Tempora, tapped directly into the undersea fiber optic cables. These cables carry a huge portion of the world's internet and phone traffic. GCHQ was copying and storing massive amounts of this data, which it shared with the NSA. The revelations caused a huge diplomatic crisis. Friendly nations were outraged. People everywhere began to question the technology they used every day.
The moment Snowden revealed his identity, he became a wanted man. On June 14, 2013, the U.S. Department of Justice charged him with espionage. These are very serious crimes. If convicted, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. The U.S. government then took a major step to trap him. On June 22, they revoked his passport. Without a valid passport, he could not travel legally between countries. He was now a fugitive and stateless, stuck in Hong Kong. He knew he had to flee immediately. With assistance from Sarah Harrison of WikiLeaks, he planned a desperate escape. His goal was to reach Ecuador, where he hoped to receive political asylum.
On June 23, Snowden and Sarah Harrison boarded a commercial flight. They flew from Hong Kong to Moscow. Moscow was not supposed to be the final destination. It was just a transit stop on a complex route to Cuba, then Venezuela, and finally Ecuador. But the plan collapsed the moment they landed at Moscow's Sheremetyevo airport. Russian authorities looked at his revoked U.S. passport. They refused to let him board his connecting flight to Havana. He was trapped in the airport's international transit zone. He was in a legal black hole. He wasn't officially in Russia, but he couldn't leave. The world's most wanted man was now living in an airport terminal.
For 39 grueling days, Edward Snowden lived in the Moscow airport. The transit zone became his home and his prison. He slept on uncomfortable benches and ate airport food. He lived with constant uncertainty as the world's media watched. From the airport, his legal team sent out applications for political asylum. They applied to more than 20 different countries. One by one, the countries said no. Most were too afraid of angering the United States. The incident showed the immense reach of U.S. power. The presidential plane of Bolivia's leader, Evo Morales, was forced to land in Austria. The reason was a false rumor that Snowden was hiding on board. They were willing to ground a president's plane to find one man.
On August 1, 2013, the strange waiting game finally ended. The Russian government granted Edward Snowden temporary asylum for 1 year. This decision allowed him to officially enter Russian territory. He could finally leave the airport. He was taken to an undisclosed location for his own security. The White House immediately expressed its extreme disappointment. This was not the future Snowden had planned. His choice of exile was made for him by the U.S. government when they revoked his passport. His great escape was over. His new life as an exile in Russia was just beginning.
The impact of Snowden's revelations was immediate and widespread. This global reaction is often called the Snowden effect. It caused a firestorm within the U.S. government. Officials called him a traitor who had endangered national security. But his leaks also forced a new, reluctant era of transparency. The government could no longer deny the scope of its surveillance. The most significant legal change was the USA Freedom Act of 2015. This law officially ended the NSA's bulk collection of Americans' phone records. This was the very program detailed in the first document Snowden leaked. It was a clear and direct victory for privacy advocates and proof that his actions had led to real reform.
The Snowden effect was felt far beyond the U.S. Technology companies were deeply embarrassed by the revelations. Their users' trust was broken. They began to implement much stronger encryption. Encryption scrambles data, making it unreadable to anyone without the key. The Internet, in many ways, became more secure as a direct result of the leaks. For the public, it was a global wake-up call. Before 2013, mass government surveillance sounded like a conspiracy theory. After 2013, everyone knew it was a reality. People started using more secure communication tools. A vital, global conversation about privacy in the digital age had begun.
After leaving the airport, Snowden began to build a new, quiet life in Moscow. For his security, he kept a low profile. A major turning point came in 2014. His long-term partner, Lindsay Mills, moved to Russia to be with him. This was first revealed to the world in a touching scene at the end of the film Citizen 4. Her arrival showed their commitment to each other, despite the incredible pressure. Lindsay, an acrobat and blogger, had been through a terrible ordeal. She was completely unaware of Snowden's plans. The FBI interrogated her. The media followed her everywhere. Her decision to rejoin him in Moscow was a powerful act of love and resilience.
In 2017, Edward Snowden and Lindsay Mills were married in a quiet ceremony in Russia. They have since had 2 sons. Snowden has said they intend to raise their children with all the values of the America we love. It is a strange situation, raising American children in exile in Russia. Snowden's legal status in Russia also changed over time. In 2020, he was granted permanent residency. Then, in September 2022, President Vladimir Putin signed a decree granting Snowden full Russian citizenship. Snowden has said he has no allegiance to Russia. He applied for citizenship so he would not be separated from his Russian-born son if his residency was not renewed. He still considers himself an American and has said he would love to return home.
Despite living in Russia, Snowden has remained a powerful voice in the world. He uses technology to beam himself onto stages around the world. He speaks at major conferences and universities via video link. He talks about privacy, cybersecurity, and the importance of government transparency. In 2016, he became the president of the Freedom of the Press Foundation. It is a nonprofit organization that works to protect journalists from surveillance. He also published his memoir in 2019, titled Permanent Record. The U.S. government immediately sued him. They did not try to stop the book's publication. Instead, they sued to take all the money he earned from it, arguing he violated his secrecy agreements.
More than a decade after the leaks, the debate over Edward Snowden is still polarized. Is he a hero or a traitor? His supporters see him as a courageous patriot. They say he risked his life to defend the Constitution and expose illegal government actions. They point to the real reforms, like the USA Freedom Act, as proof of the good he did. His critics see him as a criminal who broke his oath. They say he endangered national security and helped America's enemies. They believe he should return to the U.S. and face trial for his crimes. The question of his legacy forces us to ask what patriotism really means. Is it blind loyalty to the state, or is it loyalty to the principles of freedom and transparency?
Regardless of one's opinion of the man, the issues he raised are more important than ever. We live in a world saturated with technology. Smartphones, social media, and artificial intelligence collect more data than ever before. The potential for surveillance by both governments and corporations has grown exponentially. Snowden's memoir title, Permanent Record, is a chilling reminder. We are all creating vast, digital trails of our lives every day. Who has access to this permanent record? Who is watching the watchers? These are the urgent questions of our time. Snowden's legacy is that he forced this conversation into the open. He gave us the knowledge. What we do with it will determine the future of freedom in the digital world. His story is not over. Our story is not over. The chapter is still being written.